All right. Hello and welcome everyone to episode 2 of the Generation GC podcast. My name is Molly Hudelson. I'm your host. I am here with Tyler Young from the band Makeout. We are going to be talking about Girls and Boys from The Young and the Hopeless. Last week, we talked about Little Things from Good Charlotte's debut self-titled album. Next week, we're going to be talking about a song from The Chronicles of Life and Death. Tyler, hello.
Hello. Sorry about the delay. We had a little dog accident, but we're here. We're
good. we are here. I mean, dogs are worth it. My parents have a dog, but haven't really gotten to see him in a few weeks because of all this. And I miss him. I miss him dearly. Yeah,
that's been one of the nice things about being locked at home is I just see my dogs all the time, and they love it. They love having us both home.
What kind of dog do you have?
They're both little. They're both like Chihuahua mixes.
Oh, cute.
So they both, our boy his name is Tiny. He's like 10.5 pounds. And then Mila's our little baby girl. She's going to be 7 months old.
So they're like babies.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She's 8 pounds. So they're both little tiny dogs.
Oh, amazing. Well, yeah. So today we are talking about Girls and Boys, which is track 6 on Good Charlotte's sophomore album, The Young and the Hopeless, from 2002. It was the third single released from the album following Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous and The Anthem, which I think arguably are probably, like, even to this day, I would say are their 2 biggest songs, the songs people know them for. And it came out as a single after the album was released. I think the music video, which we have so much to talk about with this music video, came out as a single after the album released. It hit number 48 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the US, which made it their 3rd song from this album, following Lifestyles and The Anthem, to cross over from modern rock radio to pop radio. And in the UK, it did super well. It was their 2nd top 10 hit, actually hit number 1 on the rock and metal chart in the UK. This is, like I said, it's a hugely popular song. And if you see Good Charlotte live, you are almost definitely going to hear them play this.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Funny enough, so there was a point in time where Joel and Benji were looking at our band to manage us. And
really?
And so we went out to lunch with Benji, and we recorded our record with John Feldmann, who has done a bunch of the Good Charlotte stuff in the past. So we went out to lunch with Benji and John, and while we were at the restaurant, this Girls and Boys came on while we were sitting there eating lunch, and we were just all like, hey, like, it's on the radio. And then John's just like, yeah, that's what happens when you write a smash hit. And we were all just like, whoa.
Like, he just said that? True. But
what a flex.
Right. I interviewed Kevin from Walk the Moon earlier this year in January. And as I was, I think I was scheduled for 5:30 p.m. this, a Thursday evening. And as I'm, pulling up, because I was, cutting it super close getting back from work, as I'm pulling up, Shut Up and Dance is finishing on the radio. And I'm like, all right, another smash hit. And that's what happens.
Yep.
So we're good. We're going to talk a lot about John Feldmann and about your band and everything. But I want to talk about, this song. So I had reached out to your publicist, Mike, a few weeks ago. And I've worked with Mike several times over the years. He's been in this game.
He's the best.
He's awesome. He worked with so many different bands. And anyone listening to this, if you like any, scene bands, Mike has probably either worked with them or worked with someone on their label at one point. So I had asked him if any of his clients were fans of Good Charlotte and wanted to come on this podcast. And so he gave me your name. And, he said that Girls and Boys was the song you wanted to talk about. So why did you want to talk about this song in particular?
Oh, man. I just, so back when it came out, I was in the same boat because I think that you wrote here that you had the album before this song came out as a single.
Yeah.
And I was in the same boat. I fell in love with, Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous. That's what hooked me. So I got the album when it first came out. And then I think immediately I've found that I always have a knack for like picking out what songs are going to be the next singles on records. And so like as soon as I heard that album and heard Girls and Boys, I was like, I know that's going to be it, you know? And then they came out with that music video, and I can just remember it being on MTV like 24/7 back when it came out. And it was just the funniest, it's just like the funniest music video. And that like, I haven't watched it in years and years and years, but you know, I still remember
either.
But I still remember the whole thing, you know? They're like, they're hanging out with all the older people and just like rocking out, and like, you know, all the old people are acting like they're young, and it's just like, I don't know, the whole thing is just funny. But yeah, I don't know. I think just like this record, the record in general for me was just a big turning point. Good Charlotte was the first concert that I ever went to ever.
Okay. What tour was it? Who were they on tour with?
So it was their tour. It was the Young and the Hopeless tour.
Okay.
And I think if I remember correctly, it was like Reggie and the Full Effect.
Wow.
Something. Maybe it was Messed actually.
Oh my God, Messed.
Messed and something corporate. But yeah, so the whole record was just like it's just like a staple of me growing up because it came out when I was 12. So
okay.
You know, I was really influenced by the guys at Good Charlotte, and having that be the first show that I ever went to, you know, I'm never going to forget that. So
yeah. So you were probably 12, 13 or so when you saw them the first time?
Yeah, I think I was 13.
Yeah, I was also 13 the first time I saw Good Charlotte. They were touring with Simple Plan. It was a few months after Chronicles of Life and Death had come out. What did you think when you saw them live for the first time at 13 years old, and like this is your first concert?
Yeah, I mean, it was at so I grew up in Rhode Island, so I saw them play in Rhode Island, and it was at what's now called the Dunkin' Donuts Center. So it was a big arena. And so to have my first show be at like this giant arena, it was larger than life, you know, like I had never experienced anything like that. And to have just a massive stage with like the music just blasting and all the crazy lights, and just to have that be my first show was just like, man, like that is cool.
Yeah.
You know, and I went to so many shows since. So they hooked me.
I was on Warped Tour when they came back in 2016, so that was great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Makeout has covered Girls and Boys. I was searching because I always try to see if I can find like alternate versions covers. Makeout has covered this song. I found a video that was like January 2019, but was this a song, like, have you played this song a lot? Like, is it like a regular thing in your set?
No. So we only did it we did the short little headliner run in January. It was January, like 9 shows
last year,
2019.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, we knew we wanted to just make the set a little longer, so we we just played everything off the Good Life and threw Good Charlotte in there just because we all knew it, and we were able to throw it together pretty quickly. And it just kind of fits our vibe, so it worked pretty good.
Definitely. Yeah. And I noted that, you know, like when I listened to Makeout, when I listened to The Good Life, like the first influence that comes to mind to me is 5 Seconds of Summer, who, you know, obviously have worked with Benji and Joel quite a bit. They actually covered this song in 2015, and in that interim when Good Charlotte was on hiatus. But Tyler, can you talk to me a little bit about like how Good Charlotte has influenced both your wanting to make music as well as, you know, what you guys do with Makeout?
Yeah. So funny enough, we get compared to them fairly often.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you said, with 5 Seconds of Summer too, that happens a lot as well.
Oh yeah.
Callum and Ashton actually helped us write a couple songs on the record, so you know it's not that far-fetched to say that we sound a little bit like them. But yeah, I mean, I think with that being the first show that I ever went to, that kind of shaped my musical tastes moving forward from there. because I think like after I started getting into Good Charlotte, I started finding more of like the punkier bands. You know, like I did after seeing Mest. You know, I bought that record.
Oh yeah.
And I'm trying to think who else I would have been listening to at the time. I mean, I went a little harder into the punk stuff like NoFX and Pennywise, and AFI was one of my favorite bands growing up.
Okay.
So yeah, and I think it really stemmed from that, and they just had this way of blending pop with punk that nobody else really did as well. Because, you know, you have like Sum 41 and Green Day and Blink-182, and they're all sort of similar, and they all came up at the same time.
But Good Charlotte, I feel like has stuck out from those. Yeah,
I agree. And I don't know if I can like quite put my finger on it, but just being so in love with that record has shaped, you know, how I go about writing songs. And yeah, it's just always, that being my first show is just always going to be a special moment to me.
For sure. And then you got to work with John Feldmann to produce your record.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty wild. So we, before we were Makeout, we were this band called Trophy Wives.
Right.
And we did the Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands like everybody does every year to get on Warped Tour.
Oh, yeah.
But what a lot of people don't realize is there's like a national part of it. So like everybody who wins their local stage spot are put into this pool, and out of everybody that wins those local stage spots, they pick 4 bands to come out to LA and play a show in front of judges. And so John was one of the judges.
So cool.
And and we didn't win that year, but after they announced the winner, John came up to us. He's like, "Hey, you guys are the Rhode Island boys. I like what you're doing. What are you doing the rest of the weekend?" And we're like, "Oh, I don't know. This is our first time in LA. We're just hanging out." He's like, "Why don't you come by the studio?"
That's cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was very surreal. So we went by the studio, and you walk in, and he's just got plaques of gold records on the wall.
Oh my god!
And it's all these bands that I grew up listening to, like The Used, Story of the Year, Good Charlotte. It's just everybody that I listened to growing up.
Yeah.
And then so we stayed in touch with him. He was like, "Yeah, go home, write some songs, send them to me, keep me in the loop." And after about 1.5 years of sending songs back and forth, he was finally like, "All right, let's do a record." And then we spent about a month at his house doing The Good Life.
I love it. Yeah. So let's get back to Girls and Boys. So this song, I mean, it basically depicts, stereotypes of men and women, right? Like the men who are just materialistic, image obsessed, but they don't actually have much to say. The women who just want the guy that's going to foot the bill. It's people who are immature, who are shallow, and it leads to people losing their souls, losing their personality. What's your interpretation of the lyrics? Did you have like anything else you took differently or you wanted to add?
Yeah, it kind of seems like they maybe wrote it from a place where they weren't those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like maybe growing up, they were like, I mean, they talk about it all the time. They were misfits growing up. You know what I mean? Like they didn't necessarily fit in with everybody else. And I think that song kind of came from that place.
Yep.
Where, they saw everything going on. They saw, the prettiest girls in high school are going to date the jocks, the captains of the football team and so on and so forth. So I don't know if it's necessarily as like serious as the lyrics sound, as much as it is like a satire of kind of like what they were noticing being sort of like the outcasts growing up.
And that's something I had noted here too, that I think it comes from a place of frustration, feeling frustrated and angry and confused, basically that everyone else around you has all these things. They have money, they're attractive, they have relationships with other people who have money and are really attractive, and you're just like, why do they have this? Why don't I have it? They're not better than me. They're all fake.
Yeah, exactly. That's the take I got from it too.
Yeah. And that's something that I don't think I necessarily had like that kind of level of analysis when I first heard this record, and I was like 11 years old. I think when I like when I first heard it, I was just like, yeah, you're right. People are, fake. And
yeah, I don't have a girlfriend. They just like girls, or they just like guys with cars.
Yeah.
And fancy stuff. Yeah. I don't have that.
Yeah. I think, and I want to talk about the fact that I feel like the way that we talk about gender and stereotypes has changed. Like, this record came out 2002, like fall 2002.
Man, that's almost 20 years ago.
I know. So 18 and a half years ago, right? Which is a really long time ago. And people, I don't know if it's that people are not stereotyping as much, or if it's that we kind of call it out more in 2020 than we do in 2002. Twitter especially makes it, if something happens on Twitter, you get called out. If something happens on YouTube, you get called out in the YouTube comments, right? You get called out on Instagram. Yeah. Do you think they would have written this song in 2020? Like, how would this song be different if it was written now, or would it be the same?
That's a good question. I don't know that they would have put it out these days.
Yeah.
Just because, like, especially like being an artist, people are going to interpret things how they want to interpret that, and you're always going to have people that are going to be against what you're saying. I mean, if you're like in the realm of like the song, if you're saying something like that, people are going to be upset.
Right. I mean, and people are, people are, they don't love this song in 2020 per se.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know that they would have, put it out. I don't know. It is a lot different of a time now. And just to, we've made a lot of strides in getting rid of the gender roles and the stereotypes of the past. And I think we've moved forward a lot, and that's great. And so, yeah, I don't know that it would have gone over as well nowadays, or if they even would have put it out at all.
Yeah, I wonder, because we'll, in the next sort of segment of the show, we'll dig into this a little more, but I wonder if they maybe, instead of calling it girls and boys and saying, oh, this is what girls do, this is what boys do, I wonder if, like, in 2020, they just would have written a more general song about, this type of behavior that isn't necessarily gendered. Because
I see what you mean.
Like, I don't know if any of this stuff, like being image obsessed or being attractive without much substance, like, frankly, I don't think that necessarily has to be a guy thing or a girl thing.
Right. Yeah. And it definitely hasn't gone away, like, no, that's definitely still happening nowadays.
Definitely.
So there's definitely something to comment on, but they may have just had to word it a little differently, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember hearing this song this summer. So, like, I had bought this album. I was, like, finishing up 6th grade. So, like, the album had been out for a little bit. And it was, like, right after this album came out, I was away at summer camp. And this song was on the radio, and they would, like, play it. They would, like, play this song at dances at summer camp, which, like, now I'm like, okay, that's, like, kind of funny when you think about, like, what the song is about. But I don't know. I liked rocking out to this song in my, 11-year-old summer camp, like, fake prom dress and such.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember them playing this, like, at school dances and stuff, because, I mean, I was, 13, 14 at the time, so I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And, school dances were in full swing. And then, so I was always the type of person where they'd be playing, like, 50 Cent and Ludacris and, like, Lil Jon. And then, like, something like Good Charlotte would come on. I'd be like, it'd be like the 2 or 3, it'd be one of the 2 or 3 songs that I heard all night that I was, like, amped about.
Yeah, I remember hearing, like, this, and there were a couple of Simple Plan songs that were in swing around this time too. And then, if you got lucky, Good Riddance by Green Day was, like, your slow dance song.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of school dance memories with this song.
So funny. Those school dances are so awkward.
They're so awkward. I have a couple pictures, somewhere. I don't try to
oh God, yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to see mine.
But I know by the time I got to high school, I went to like a few dances freshman year, but after freshman year of high school, I just kind of stopped. I went to like all the dances in middle school.
Yeah, same. Just because that was like the thing to do.
Yeah.
It was a way to get with your friends
Mm-hmm.
after school, after hours, and like hang out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was the same way. I went probably a few times, like my freshman and sophomore year of high school.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is not for me.
Yeah, I was like, okay, like I could be, hanging out in like a smaller group or even at a party with like the smaller group of the people I like actually want to be with.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's move on to our next little part of the show. So I want to talk about this music video.
Okay.
This music video. So I know you were talking about you remembered seeing this on MTV. I don't remember watching it on MTV, but I never really watched MTV growing up unless it was like I knew, Good Charlotte was going to be on TRL or something.
Yeah.
So I probably watched it online first, which I guess I must have seen on their website because in 2003 you didn't have YouTube. So it was like a little harder to find music videos online. So the story of this video, the members of Good Charlotte are all hanging around with a bunch of elderly people who are having the time of their lives, basically acting like they're young. So it kind of contrasts the song itself, which seems to point to younger people. So Benji gives a woman a massage. Billy plays that I think was my favorite part.
Yeah, that scene is so ridiculous.
Billy plays video games with some of them. Paul gets nice and close with a few of them. There's that great dance sequence where Joel is kind of leading them.
Yep.
That was good too.
Like in the middle of the video. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, I remember all this without even having seen the video in a while. I actually just threw it on so I could watch it.
Yeah. It's great. It's a classic. And then what I didn't remember though is the end of the video where an alarm clock goes off and Benji is like in bed and he like rolls over and wakes up. That part of the video I did not remember.
Yeah, he wakes up next to the lady that he was massaging, right?
Yeah.
Too funny.
I also noted that Benji's hair in this video, it's cut short and he's got this cheetah print going on.
Yeah, he doesn't have the spikes that he had for a while.
Yeah, he doesn't have the spikes. He did a lot of, Joel had some, fun hair colors he did, and Paul would kind of go between like dark and like really blonde. Billy, I think, pretty much always had like dark hair, but Benji was the one that I feel like experimented the most with the hairstyles and the makeup. He had the eyeliner in like tears on his face here. So something I only found out about this video when I was researching it. It was shot in Ellerslie, New Zealand, which is a suburb of Auckland. And so our last episode 1 of this show, we talked about Little Things, and that video was shot in Mississauga, Ontario, which is just outside of Toronto. And we came to the conclusion that they were like probably on tour, had a day or two off in that area, and probably had like a show in Toronto and then a day or two off, and that just happened to be where they found a school.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And I was doing some research because I was like, okay, why did they shoot a video in New Zealand? So per Stuff, a New Zealand website, they were in town to perform at WOMAD, which is an annual music festival there. And this article is fantastic. I was like, holy shit, what? Oh my God, like the whole time reading it. So this article and I will link this article in the show notes. This article focuses on Margaret Maggie Jones, who was one of the stars of the video. She was 83 at the time of filming, and she had been approached when someone noticed her dancing ability at a health expo in Auckland. So, I don't know, just like imagine your grandma or, you know, an older relative just
hanging out with
right, living their life, and then all of a sudden they're in this music video that's like everywhere. They had their first platinum record in 2001. Their self-titled went platinum in New Zealand. Benji talks about how, you know, everyone in New Zealand treated us like we're at home and how much they love the country. Maggie Jones goes on to say in this article that when the video was released, she was getting calls from her great-nephew who lived in Dublin, people all over the world telling her they'd seen her in this video, and she went on to appear in several TV ads.
Wow, it's just kickstarted her acting career.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was so funny. You know, who knows what kind of opportunities can happen from the most random happenstances at all.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then at the time of this article, Maggie was 90 years old, so I guess this was about 7 years later. Good Charlotte had returned to New Zealand to perform at Seddon Park. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Seddon. If anyone in New Zealand is listening, please correct me. They played Girls and Boys as a tribute to her, and Maggie and Benji caught up with Cuddles like they were long-lost friends.
Aw, cute.
Yeah, I just imagine Benji as this, you know, cougar, or no, she would be like the older woman would be the cougar, right? You know, Benji.
He's like, do you want another massage?
Right. You know, Benji just kind of being this ladies' man going after, you know, the older woman. I mean,
yeah, that's too funny.
I know she must be the talk of the town. I would love to catch up with her now. I thought that was real funny. Another interview I found was from Black Velvet Magazine, a UK outlet. This was in 2003. Joel talks about how being on a major label, they were on Epic Daylight, meant that they had money to do things like make bigger videos. I don't know if he was referring to this video or not, but I'm not sure what video he's talking about, but he says that our last video cost us 150 grand, maybe less, and that's expensive to us. And he said, you know, I've heard of bands that have spent $500,000 on a video. We would never do that just on principle. The article goes on to talk about Girls and Boys immediately after that. So I don't know if like he's referring to Girls and Boys when he's quoting the video budget.
Yeah, I mean, just rewatching it there, I can't imagine. It was probably like 50 grand. I can't imagine that it'd be that expensive. There wasn't really that much that went into it.
Yeah.
They were hanging out at a house, and they probably had to like rent the venue and get everybody there to fill the venue because they did the live performing shots, and then they were at a bowling alley for the dancing part. But that's about it. There's not really a whole lot going on.
Right. It's not like they didn't have to build a set. I mean, Joel and, there was that little dance sequence that I guess had to be choreographed. But, I get the vibe, like, the part where Billy is playing video games, I don't necessarily get the vibe that, I mean, I'm sure it was like written out and there was a storyboard, but I kind of get the vibe that they were all just doing what sort of felt natural to them and kind of taking on their personalities. Like, so I mean, it's a fun video, and there's like a lot of details I think you can point out, and seeing how they each interact with all the older people.
Yeah, I think that's what always had drawn me to Good Charlotte and why I like them so much. I always appreciated their sense of humor. Yeah. Because, I don't know, people that just take themselves too seriously is just kind of it's always been like a turn off for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that they can just be goofy and be themselves, and we try to do that as well. So
definitely,
maybe that's because I grew up in Good Charlotte. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah. No, I get that too. That I feel like they, because there. I mean, if you go into like the more punk side of the pop punk spectrum, you tend there are some very punk bands that I guess can be humorous, but sometimes bands are real political and they're just
really serious.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. And I think it's super important right now to talk about politics and social issues.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's a little tough to talk about something like that and then be like, massaging an old lady in your music video. Like,
right.
You wouldn't exactly get your point across.
Right. No, and it's, social commentary, and it's social commentary, but there's like humor in it too. There was, I guess this was the red carpet at the APMAs in 2016. They did a little interview with Fuse, and Benji said that, he says, songs like Lifestyles and Girls and Boys, where we were making our own little social commentary, I feel that never changes. You have those realizations as a young kid and you said it on record, but none of us have really changed. So it's social commentary, but yeah, they did it in a way that was like...
It's like satire.
Yeah, satire. Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's what I was looking for. I had a lot of fun reading about what inspired the actual writing of the song. So in like 2016, basically not too long after the band reunited, Benji did an interview with AV Club. So he talked about what, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but he talks about they were in LA to make a record. They didn't live there yet. Both Benji and Joel now live in Los Angeles, but they were in LA for the first time. They had never been clubbing before. They went to rock shows, right? They played the Vans Warped Tour. So they tried to go to a club. They don't get in. Try to go to another club. They don't get in. And, eventually they get in somewhere, but they're like, oh, what is going on? What is this? This is what's around me. I don't know this world at all. And he says they wrote this song the next day after that night. The interviewer at AV Club asked Benji if it was a culture shock. And he said, I think we found a lot of it to be funny, and that he still does. And, I'm sure you know this, Tyler, but Benji and Joel went on to DJ a lot. And then even Good Morning Revival obviously brings a lot of that dancey kind of sound.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, eventually I guess they spent a lot of time in clubs, but definitely when they first experienced it, it was very new, it seems like. But yeah, like you were saying with satire, Benji says in this AV Club interview that he has found that dynamic to be very amusing, and that, he thinks he and Joel were able to articulate it all in a very funny, young way on that record.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that for sure. And especially because they're from DC, so
yeah.
I mean, I've only lived in LA for about a year now.
Okay.
But I can remember coming out, when we came out for the Battle of the Bands, being out in LA for the first time. It's just different out here.
Yeah.
And the whole, girls like boys with cars and money kind of thing is a little more prevalent out this way. So I can definitely see why it was a culture shock and why they would think it's so funny going to a club. Just because it's everything about that stuff taken to the extreme when you're in Los Angeles, because everybody's out here just being fake.
Yeah, I live in New Jersey. I'm very much in the suburbs, but I've spent a lot of time in New York, and the vibe in New York and LA are, I think, pretty different in that way. And I've been to LA several times too, but I don't feel like I definitely I've never been to a club in LA. So like I've done the tourist thing, you know, I've been to the beach in Santa Monica and everything, but I've never done the club thing. But
it's just so over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what LA is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I like dancing and I like going to shows where I can like dance and have a good time with my friends, but I don't know, the club atmosphere. I mean, I've been clubbing in Berlin and Istanbul because I was like, well, I'm in Berlin. You know, I'm not gonna not go down to a nightclub when I'm in Berlin and I like meet some people at a hostel, right. You know. But because to me with that, it was like the fun of it wasn't going to a nightclub. It was like being in this place I had never been before, and you know, some people I've never met are like, hey, want to go to a fun thing, and you're just like, okay, sure.
Yeah, that sounds like what they experienced too. You know,
yeah.
They were just like, yeah, let's go out, let's go. You know, we're in LA, let's go experience something.
Right,
and they were like, oh wow, this is just too much.
Yeah. I noted that Drowned in Sound said the song was undeniably shallow, but that it had a chorus that stuck in your head for days. I would kind of argue that the song is not shallow. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's like it is satire in a way, but it's totally social commentary, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you take it at like surface level, maybe it could be like seen like that. But I mean, if you're actually reading the lyrics and looking into what the meaning of the song is about, it's, you know, it's a commentary on what was happening in LA when they were there. So I tend to agree with you on that. Yeah.
I love picturing, though, you know, Benji and Joel Madden in Los Angeles for the first time, you know, from the suburbs in Maryland, just like going clubbing for the first time, and they're like, what the hell?
Yeah. And Benji probably had his like big spikes and eye makeup and all that stuff all done up to go out. That's probably why they didn't let them in anywhere.
Probably, right. No, it's I when I was on Warped Tour, we had a day off in Vegas, and one of the people I was touring with like wanted to go out to some like really fancy clubs. We all got like super dressed up, and they like almost didn't let me in because I was dressed nice enough, but like my purse, I guess, was casual or something.
Really?
Something like that. And I was like, but I was like, what the hell? Like, what kind of purse? Like, I'm out here on Warped Tour. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah, right. Sorry, you need to be wearing Gucci to get in.
Right. Not that the bouncer knew that.
Right, yeah.
Right. So I think probably my favorite fun fact about this song, there was a 2019 piece on Interview magazine where Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti said it was his favorite GC song. You know, I just, as I've been getting ready for these episodes, I'm Googling, you know, Good Charlotte and the song title and trying to find just whatever I can. So Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti says that he became friends with Benji and Joel and their wives, Cameron Diaz and Nicole Richie, when they came to support him during his race for mayor. He says, "We just hit it off. My challenge is to try to tell stories in politics better, and for them, it's bringing the political to the storytelling. I'm going to plead the fifth right now on recommending a song of theirs because I don't want the brothers to get jealous. But if you twist my arm, I'll say Girls and Boys." So you heard it here per Interview magazine that the mayor of Los Angeles not only is friends with Benji and Joel Madden, but his favorite song of theirs is probably Girls and Boys. There you go. Things I
figure.
Yeah, go figure. I never I guess I never would have expected, you know, and I'm sure like the Benji and Joel in 2001, 2002, who were in Los Angeles for the first time, probably never thought they would like be friendly with the mayor of the city.
Yeah.
Like,
I can't imagine that they would have.
Like, just as much as they probably never thought they would, you know, be famous, and as weird as clubbing for the first time was, I can't imagine they ever thought they would be friendly with the mayor, but there you go. Billy Martin told Loudwire that this song has one of his favorite guitar riffs they've ever done. He says that Benji wrote it, but he thinks the main guitar riff, the way it starts out and the bass comes in with a very 80s sound, as soon as that came together real quick, I think we knew it was a special song. So.
Yeah, it is a fun song to play. I mean,
yeah,
we covered it, so.
Yeah, I saw that video. That was fun. The video I saw was Voltage Lounge in Philadelphia.
Oh, in Philly, yep.
Mm-hmm. Which I saw Makeout. It was December 2017, and it was like a random place down the Jersey Shore, but like not Asbury Park. I want to say it was like Belmar. It was like a random venue. I don't think you guys played this cover then, though.
No, we wouldn't have. December 2017 in Jersey?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I wish I could. I wish I knew what that was.
It was...
They all blend together after a while.
Yeah, I'm sure. I want to say it was like Belmar, but it like, I just remember driving as if I was going down to Asbury Park, because I go to a lot of shows in Asbury Park, but it was like not like a town that had as much going on as somewhere like Asbury.
Yeah, sometimes we end up in weird places. It just happens. Like, we don't have a lot of say in these things.
Sure,
so.
Yeah.
And Lake Como at Paul's Tavern. What was this place?
Yes, yeah. That was it. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it was like a weird venue for sure.
Man, I wish I remembered what it was.
Yeah. Do you guys tend to play covers pretty often, or was it just for that, like a headliner last year that, wanting to do a longer set, you pulled out some covers?
Yeah, we traditionally haven't done a lot of covers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I don't know that we've done any other covers besides that, actually, now that I think about it. I mean, when we were in Trophy Wives years ago, we used to cover some Fall Out Boy, and we were known to break out some Beartooth every now and then.
Okay.
But as far as Makeout goes, I think that was the only time we actually ever played a cover.
Cool. So, I mean, clearly since you covered the song, I'm guessing you still like it a lot, but how has Girls and Boys held up for you over time? Like, what are your thoughts on it, like, now, or how do you see it differently than maybe you did like 18, 19 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of on the same in the same place as you are, where when it first came out, I don't think I was looking at it as deep, like the message behind it. I don't think I understood as well as I do now looking back on it. Because, when we're kids, we're just like, yeah, girls don't like boys, girls like cars and money, It's just like it's just you're taking it for the literal lyrics. But, now growing up a little bit and doing more songwriting and stuff, you learn to kind of like read into the lyrics a little bit more. So, I mean, I still, that whole record is still just,
oh yeah, it's
so good. And yeah, I mean, I don't think like my feelings towards the song have changed. Like, I know we talked about whether it would have been released these days or not. I mean, I still love the song, and I mean, it was my suggestion to cover it, so so that was my fault that we, got to play that one. But I
feel like there's, the lyrics to the song are pretty simple, straightforward, but I feel like there's kind of a beauty. There's like a talent to distilling something in, this complex experience that I'm sure brings up a lot of emotions and feelings of, going to a club in Los Angeles for the first time, distilling that into something as like straightforward as this song, while also kind of, having this, and maybe this is just like an interpretation that, you and I, it seems, have both picked up on, but this interpretation that there's like an underlying frustration, even if that isn't directly expressed in the song.
Yeah, I think that's just a sign of like a good songwriter.
Yeah.
Also, Benji and Joel, I know that they write everything together pretty much. They're twins, so like I can only imagine what that's like to be able to bounce ideas off one another.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's just like, I always like kind of strive for that as well. Just like being able to relay like a complicated message in simple terms, I think is like a really hard thing to pull off. But if you can do that, that's kind of what makes some really great lyrics for a song.
Yeah. What's the, because you're just talking about Benji and Joel being twins. What's the writing process typically like in Makeout? Like who is doing a lot of the writing? Is it like solo things? Is it like a group process?
Yeah, when we did the Good Life with John, so every song on there, on the record except for Salt Lake City, we did from scratch in the studio.
Okay.
So there was a lot of collaboration there. Like I mentioned before, Ashton and Callum from 5 Seconds of Summer were involved on a couple songs. We had a couple other people involved too, like Mitchie Collins.
From Lovely the Band.
Yeah.
I interviewed him about a year ago. He's great.
Yeah, great guy. So it was really cool to be in that position where we were just like surrounded by all these creative people, and being able to bounce ideas off one another was really cool. But then a lot of the time our singer, we have a new singer now, but our singer at the time, Sam, would be like in the vocal booth with Feldy, and they'd be like working on some vocal stuff. And then how it kind of worked with his studio, John had 2 engineers, Zach and Matt, and so Zach would be engineering with John in the vocal booth, and then we'd be working on like guitars and bass and stuff in another room on other songs.
Oh wow!
While they're also recording, vocals to a different song. So it was kind of a cool process. Like I can remember one time we were tracking bass on, it was actually Salt Lake City. So we were in the other room writing some bass parts, and John just comes out of the vocal booth, comes around the corner. He just like pops his head in, and he's like, "Hey, Salt Lake City needs a guitar solo," and then closes the door and goes back into the into the vocal booth. So I don't know what they were talking about in the vocal booth that made him think that Salt Lake City needed a guitar solo. But then we were like, "All right, well, I guess we have to make a guitar solo."
I love it.
But yeah, nowadays. It's definitely a group effort. I do a lot of recording, especially now in quarantine. I have like a whole recording setup. So I've been pumping out some songs, and then I'll send them. Our new singer's name is Kyle, so I'll send him a lot of like demos and stuff, and he'll send me back like voice memos with like some vocal melodies, and then we'll like work on some lyrics and stuff. And AJ will pipe in with lyrics, and so it's kind of it's a group effort. But it's been cool. The only downside is that we all live all over the place.
Right.
Where I'm in LA, and then Kyle and AJ are in Chicago. And then our drummer Scott is between LA and Australia, and he's stuck in Australia at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a pain in the ass, but we do what we can. And we have several songs ready to go, a couple others that are almost there, and everything in between. So
can you, and I don't know, so this is going to be released on April 22nd. This episode will come out. So are you able to like hint at, are we going to get like an EP, an album? I don't know if you can say anything.
So we have some singles ready to go. We're not ready to put out an EP just yet, but I know everybody wants to hear the new singer. So we do have some songs that are ready to go that we did with Travis Barker.
Awesome.
And so that process, that's a whole nother conversation, but that was a really cool process as well. Yeah, so we have some singles ready to go, and we've just kind of been talking about it. So funny enough, the quarantine screwed up our music video plans. So God. We would have had a song out by now, because we were supposed to leave for tour. Our first day of tour was supposed to be April 2nd, and we were going to be putting out a song and a music video as the tour started. But now we don't have a music video because travel and all that stuff got screwed up.
Yeah.
So we're kind of trying to figure out a way to release it still while everybody's stuck at home, but I think we're going to end up doing an animated video. And I don't think we're going to put out the song that we were originally going to put out.
Oh, really?
First. So we're changing our plans a little bit, but definitely very, very soon.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so my full-time job, I work in music video promotion.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, obviously, so like in terms of us being, in the office, we've all been working remotely for, I think this is like our 4th week. And we're definitely like, we're pushing people to, go with things like lyric videos or animated videos, because that's something, people are still like people are still listening to new music and watching things, but obviously, you have to adapt. Well, you can't be in person really anywhere to film videos or do anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And the first song that we were going to put out is a pretty it's a more serious message too, which we didn't think would adapt too well to an animated video.
Right. Okay.
Especially because we kind of wanted to do something along the lines of "Right Back at It Again" by A Day to Remember, kind of like mixed with South Park a little bit.
Okay.
So I'll be interested to see how it turns out because we have the ball rolling on that. But then, so the song we're going to end up putting out first is going to be a little bit more fun, which is, kind of a staple of our sound already anyway. So we're going to keep it lighthearted and fun for the first single, and then we'll follow it up with the more serious one. And hopefully, the quarantine will be over and we can actually shoot a real music video for that.
I can hope. I'm super excited to hear new stuff from Makeout and to hear, stuff with the new band members. So a few questions I like to ask to wrap things up. What has Good Charlotte meant to you over the years, and has that changed in any way?
You know what? So it was really cool. I mean, I've always kind of idolized them, like I said, them being my first show and seeing them just playing to an arena, I was like, holy shit, like that would be really cool. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then getting the opportunity to actually meet them was really grounding and really cool because Joel and Benji are very, very nice guys. And so being able to like pull away from like the image of their band and actually just get to spend some time with them as people, it made me appreciate them even more, just because they were so level-headed and grounded. And I mean look at who they're married to and stuff. They're both married to like movie stars, and but they're still like, they know where they came from. They came up from nothing, and they still really appreciate that. And they've done some huge stuff with helping out bands. Because they're managing a bunch of artists nowadays. And so just for them to be able to give back like that, it made me appreciate them even more. We've run into them a few times over the years, ever since we met them. And, they always remember who we are, and that's really cool, So definitely some awesome people to look up to. And so I don't know that my perception has really changed, but maybe it's just changed for even better. Like I always loved them as a band. Like you've kind of like
seen like a more real side of them.
Yeah, exactly. And it just makes me appreciate them even more. So, I'm really grateful for being able to meet them. And that's one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this podcast was, I have had the experience of spending some time with them and whatnot. So,
I'm so glad you could talk about that, because I knew you had done the cover and everything, but I didn't realize you had gone to spend time with them, which was so cool to hear about.
Yeah, because they so John brought them to the studio when we were recording The Good Life, and that's how we kind of first came in touch with them. And then, they came a couple times while we were recording the record, and, Benji took us out for lunch one day. And then we ran into them at a 5 Seconds of Summer show at Madison Square Garden.
Awesome.
So we hung out at the after party, and they were there. And, I ran into them so we were on Warp 2018, and they did like a one-off, the Baltimore date. Yeah.
Oh my God. I woke up. So I worked the New Jersey and Long Island shows. Okay. And I was kind of I kind of knew Good Charlotte was going to play. I was like, they're definitely going to play that Maryland show. And I woke up that day and saw it on the internet that they were playing. And I was just like, shit, I could just drive down. And I so regret not just driving, 4 hours down to see them. I mean, I've seen them before. I've seen them since, but I regretted not going to see them play.
Honestly, it was impossible to see them.
Oh, I'm sure.
We were on the tour, so we could go anywhere, but they had nobody was allowed backstage.
Yep.
And where the stage was that day, it was on a downhill. So the stage was at the top of a hill almost.
Oh, weird.
So once you get 15 people back, it's really, really hard to see.
Right.
So everybody was just trying to pack in and get as close as they could, and it was just a nightmare. So I kind of just watched from afar. Well, I didn't even really watch. I just listened from afar.
Yeah.
But I did manage to run into them later too, which was cool.
So we've talked about 5 Seconds of Summer a bit. So I do have to ask, what is your favorite song on the new 5 Seconds of Summer record?
Ooh, I really like Wildflower.
Okay. Yeah, I think my favorite is High.
Okay, that one's cool too. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I think
Wildflower's really good.
Oh, the record's so good. Wildflower is definitely it seems to be one that's a popular track. People, from what I've seen on Twitter, it seems like a lot of people are liking that one a lot too.
Yeah, well, it's just it has this cool 80s vibe to it, and they had another song on the last record. What's it called? That I really liked too, because it was kind of the same idea. It was Talk Fast on the last record. Also kind of has the 80s Police vibe, and I just think it's really cool. They do it really well.
Now I'm praying I can get tickets, and I'm praying that tour still goes as planned.
When's it supposed to be?
It's the New Jersey show is September 6th. It's Labor Day weekend.
Ooh, September should. Well,
I feel September will be
fingers
fine.
crossed.
Yeah,
September
right. I'm praying because it's around my birthday, so I'm all right, gotta make this happen.
You're I would like to hang out with friends for my birthday.
Right. I saw the one time I've seen 5 Seconds of Summer was on my birthday a couple of years ago. So I'm maybe kind of continue that tradition.
Yeah, that's a cool tradition.
Yeah. So Tyler, do you have any last words about Girls and Boys, about Good Charlotte, about Makeout, or about yourself?
Let's see. Well, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it was awesome. Mike sent us all the email, and I jumped on it because I was I got all sorts of stories about Good Charlotte. So thank you for having me. That was great. And that record, The Young and the Hopeless, and is just one of that's always going to stick with me forever. So it was really cool to get to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. And as far as Makeout goes, we're really bummed that we should be on tour right now.
Yeah.
So we're really bummed that we didn't get to make that happen because for obvious reasons.
Right.
But yeah, they're working on rescheduling the tour. When that's going to be is still kind of up in the air because everything is up in the air right now. But we will have a song out before the summer. So I'm looking forward to putting new music out and see what everybody thinks. It was really hard to pick a new vocalist, but Kyle is a great guy, fantastic singer and a great guitar player. So we really couldn't have gotten anybody better. So I'm really excited to see what everybody else thinks.
Yeah. I am super excited. I am so excited because the first record is great, and I'm just sure that whatever is in the future for Makeout is going to be awesome as well. Tyler, so where can people find you as well as the band online?
Yeah. So for me, I'm Makeout Tyler on Twitter, Instagram, everything. That's how you can find me, and the band is at Makeout Official. And that's the same on everything as well. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff is all Makeout Official. So be on the lookout for some new tunes soon. And we'll hopefully be seeing you either at the end of the summer or the fall.
Awesome. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, this has been awesome. I would love to have you back. To everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of Generation GC. We'll be back next week, next Wednesday, with an episode talking about a song from the Chronicles of Life and Death. You can follow Generation GC at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The handle is at Generation GC Pod, Pod. You can also follow me, Molly at M Hudelson, MHUDELSON on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great week.